Welcome to the Friends of Israel's Jew and Gentile podcast. I am your host, Chris Katulka, and with me is none other than the Jewish sage himself, the one, the only, Mr. Steve Herzig. How are you, sir?
I'm tired, Chris.
Why are you tired?
I got back from Wisconsin, Chicago. Drove from Chicago all the way home. Amazing. 12 hours.
12 hours you drove.
Chris, I thought we were in big trouble. You got to go through Chicago at rush hour. I woke up at 4:30, but I couldn't wake up my wife. Not because she wouldn't wake up, but because I didn't want to disturb her. And I was having some quiet time with the Lord, and I said, or he said, I don't know which voice it was, let her sleep. Just let her sleep. And don't worry, you're retired. You don't have to be at the office. However long it takes you, let it take you. So I did. I listened to that still small voice. And so we ended up leaving at 6:30. She woke up naturally.
In the morning, 6:30. Still good time.
Terrible time for Chicago, rush hour. However, the family we're staying with, the Goodmillers, great time with them. And Chris, I typed in I call her my lady, the lady on my phone. I'm going to take GPS, and wherever the lady leads me, Chris, no traffic.
You're kidding.
We did 830 miles.
Through Chicago, too.
From actually the northwest suburbs, far western suburbs, Elgin, Illinois, and traveled around Chicago, but still 294. If anybody's listening and knows 90, I didn't do 90 through the city. I did 294. Chris, I used to do it all the time. I lived in Chicago world for 18 years. God answered prayer. I let my wife sleep, woke up naturally, no traffic on the Indiana Turnpike, Ohio Turnpike, Pennsylvania Turnpike.
You're the man.
You
are the man.
Fantastic.
Well, hey, listen, if you're just joining us and you're listening for the first time or the second time or the 10th time or whatever, I'm thankful that you're with us. I would really like to encourage you to subscribe to the Jew and Gentile podcast. Steve, we've got 7 listeners. We're hoping to bump up to 8. And recently you were in Wisconsin at the camp and that your family was a part of. We had some of the guests of our podcast last week.
Who loved doing it. They told me how thankful they were. I just loved finding people who were willing to come on our podcast.
And so when they came on, they would say to you, hey, we're the 8th listener. We're still convinced we only have 7. I mean, I see the data. So anyway, we'd like you to like and subscribe the podcast. Maybe you listen on YouTube or you listen on Apple or Google or wherever you are, Spotify. Be sure to like and leave a comment about the Jew and Gentile podcast. And I also want to remind you that the Jew and Gentile podcast is sponsored by FOI Equip, Steve. And we like to hand out free stickers that support Israel and the Jewish people.
We do. And in fact, I was handing out stickers at the camp. Shayna, my daughter, was giving me an update on stickers that she has with her Mahjong group. And of course, Mahjong is stereotyped as being a Jewish game for women. Now it's all over the place, Chris. You know about it as well in Dallas, don't you?
Oh, well, in Dallas, they do a lot of Mahjong is huge right now. And apparently people pay like $500 to get trained to learn how to play Mahjong.
Well, my daughter is helping a woman's business. That's her business, is having Mahjong parties. You invite people over who don't know how to play, who want to play.
That's right.
And they teach them how to play. But Chris, I have to give you an update. Someone who would subscribe.
Stickers.
Well, wait, I'll get back to the stickers.
All right, go ahead.
But I have to tell you, somebody who would subscribe, but he's in heaven now.
Oh, yes.
And I spoke at his church, and his daughter attends that church. I spoke on Sunday, and she came up to me and she said, Steve, I got to tell you something. I know my father, you talked about him on the podcast and how he ate his sandwiches while he was listening to the podcast, which, Chris, I got to get that image out of my head.
Okay, so wait, let's just catch some of our listeners up here. There was a gentleman who listened maybe a couple years ago now. Maybe it's been a year or so.
I think he's been with the Lord about a year.
Okay, so he would listen to the podcast in the shower and eat a sandwich.
And eat a sandwich.
Okay, try to put that.
I don't even.
We have listeners who say we like to listen to the Jew and Gentile podcast before they go to bed, which makes us laugh a little bit to think about us rambling and they're going to bed.
I don't know how you could go to sleep, but either way, she said, I was having trouble with my drain in the shower. Ever since he passed, I was having trouble, and I got a snake, and I took the snake into the drain, and she said, candy wrappers came up. Baggies came up.
So
she said, I don't know what he was doing in the shower. I know he loved the water to hit him, but she said, all I know is she told me all I know is my drain's flowing freely.
Well, we all know what he told us what he was doing, listening to the podcast and eating sandwiches and eating candy.
Unbelievable. Unbelievable. But I know he would have been a subscriber if he had a chance to do it.
He was one of our original subscribers, and he's with the Lord now, which actually opened up a slot probably for another listener to come in of one of our 7 to fill that space. But either way, we'd like you to participate in what's going on with the Friends of Israel and the Jew and Gentile podcast. And you can do that by getting free stickers that support Israel and the Jewish people.
50 of them, Chris.
50 free stickers. In fact, I was thinking recently, we should probably lower that number because inflation and the cost of all. And so
why do we have to remind people of negative things? Keep 50.
Well,
don't be such a schnorr.
So, I want to say that the reason we have to keep 50 is because we have a new packet that sends out our stickers that say, "Oi, your stickers are here." If you're watching on the YouTube page, we have a new envelope that's going to send these stickers out. And in our newsletter that comes with it, I actually say, "We hope that you enjoy these 50 free stickers."
There you go.
And I have thousands of these printed already.
So you got to do it.
I got to do it. I cornered myself.
Does it say "Oi" on the envelope?
Oi.
Well, guess what, Chris? I'm retired now, but your board member that oversees your department gave me as a going away gift. Look, can you read my
Oh,
sock?
yeah, look at your socks. Oy vey.
It's oi and vey.
If you're not watching and you're listening, Steve stuck his foot on the table and it says "Oy vey" on his socks.
But that was given by a board member of Friends of Israel to me.
That's exactly right. So, hey, listen, get your 50 free stickers. You can text us at 424-1948. Again, that's 424-1948. It'll be me. I'll text you back, okay? And I will send you a link so that you can be a part of not only being a participant in teaching biblical truth about Israel and the Jewish people. You might go, how am I going to do that with stickers? Stickers tell the story. Stick it on your cell phone. Stick it on your water bottle, on your Bible. People see the stickers and they ask questions. And so, again, we want you to participate in everything that's going on here at Friends of Israel, and we want to send you 50 free stickers. 424-1948.
Chris, I have to ask you a question because I was trying to help a person text that. So help a retired old person. You go to your text thing, and you put where it says to, right? T-O, right? You text.
Oh, yes.
So you put 424-1948. And then in the message, what do you say?
Oh, just say, I get a bunch of comments. I want stickers. Or stickers, please.
Or how do we know where to send them? You got to put your address in.
No. You're just going to text me. I would like stickers, and I'm going to send you a link, and that link is going to be able to give you the...
Okay, yeah. That's good.
So that's how you do it, because that will put the information in so that we can send you the stickers. Okay, so that's the reason why it's a link.
Okay, so you go to the T-O, and you put
424-1948,
and then in the message you got to say something. You can't just.
You can say whatever you want. You can say Zeigazund.
What have people said? You never tell me anything. What do they say? Give me stickers?
Yes, they say give me stickers.
Do they ever say please?
They say some of them say please. Some of them
don't.
Some of
them
weren't
raised right.
Some of them are very blunt. They go stickers.
Do they ever use an exclamation point?
Oh, look here. Here's one right here. You ready? Send stickers. That's what it says. I even said to this person, how'd you find out about the stickers? Never got back to me. Just wants the stickers.
Just give me the stickers.
That's right.
That's why we have 7 listeners.
That's right. 424
444
1948. And if you want to send a comment or a question or whatever, you can
Send
do
a
it.
comment. How did they like the Chicago policewoman? That was my favorite. Well, I didn't really interview her. You did. I was sitting next to her. I interviewed her the whole week. Chris, I was fascinated with how God plants his people in places that we could never dream of. Honestly, Chris, do you think about Christian policemen scattered around, not just in the United States, anywhere, and how God can use them? I think of Chicago police, and I figured they're under fire all the time, trouble. No one likes them. And here's a woman who says, I love this. I'm in the worst neighborhood in Chicago, and they love the police. They just can't let other people know.
You know, last night I spoke at a women's Bible study, and I taught about Abigail. Okay,
Nice.
And so,
a guy teaching about Abigail to a bunch of Christian ladies.
and it's funny because the woman's
And they're
pastor,
probably saying, what does this guy know?
That's right. Well, the guy said, the women's pastor, who's a friend of ours, our family's, she said, what are some questions that you might want them to ask? And I said, this is torture. Ask a guy about, ask me any question you want, ladies, about women, okay? Send it my way. I'll be happy to answer the questions.
Just so you know, his wife's going to say, what are you asking him for?
That's right.
I've been working with him for 20 years and nothing's gone well.
It's true. So anyway, last night though we were talking. I don't even remember what we were talking about here, but we were talking about. I got done speaking, and a woman came up to me and said that was very fascinating. She goes, we have a Jewish friend, and my son knows the Bible very well, and he is ministering to her and trying to share the gospel, and she doesn't agree with anything he says, but they have the conversation though. And she goes, I think that's so important that people can talk together about these things. And it kind of hit me last night when she said that I think a lot of times we watch, I'm guilty of it, Steve. I watch the news a lot, but the news presents this side, and rarely does it present what's actually happening on a day-to-day basis with people. I love the news. So listen, if you're going, Chris, don't tell me to stop watching news. I'm not. I love the news. But at the same time, there's a lot of people who are just having conversations.
Exactly. And no-name policewoman that we interviewed gave me a perspective, not just of her own work, but of several Christians within the department who are not just working a job, Chris. They're doing a ministry.
That's right.
God's placed them there. And it's not just police people, it's nurses and doctors. It's a great reminder that God plants his people. What are we here for? Why is the church? Why did God leave people who are saved on the earth? What if we're saved? Why doesn't he just take us? We have purpose. It doesn't matter what your job is. Whatever he's called you to do, you do in service of him. She was a great example. And little David, who's not so little, he's a teenager, he said, I was so nervous. Why did I say toast?
Yeah.
Israel toast. What was I thinking?
That's right.
I said, don't worry about it. People kind of get nervous. He has all kinds of recipes. So David, if you're listening, send your recipe to us at 424-444-1948, and we will talk about your recipe. We'll even put it in the show notes.
100%. And it doesn't even have to just be, it could be toast, it could be shakshuka. What is it?
Oh, his mother
Falafels?
said he's doing all kinds of things. Why did he do toast? I don't know. But Chris,
if he's doing Ashkenazi, is he doing matzo balls? Is he doing, what's he,
I
crepe
don't
block?
know.
What's he doing?
I don't know. Have to tell us. But Chris, I have a follow-up on the 77-year-old lady who is cruising for 10 years. She's cruising. We talked about that, right?
I'm beginning to think this is something you really want to do.
This is something I'm fascinated. I do not want to do it, but I am fascinated with it. I think it's a cool thing to do. If this is what you want to do, it's living outside the norm.
Yeah.
And however, you have to be well-heeled in order to do this follow-up. Here, look, out of the New York Post, Chris, luxury cruise ships, 1.8 million. Chris, in my dreams.
Yeah. Well, tell them what the 1.8.
Unlimited stay package includes queen bed, premium soaps, I don't know what
does
big
that mean?
deal. Soap? I could get you soap for $2.99 and it'll smell really good.
The soap industry, I don't understand.
400 destinations.
That's not too shabby.
So you get to be on this cruise ship for the rest of your life for $1.8 million.
The New York Post says a luxury cruise company is making waves with a groundbreaking offer, the chance to live at sea indefinitely. Villa V Residence is offering what it calls the Endless Horizons package, allowing the guests to retire aboard its ship, the Villa Via Odyssey, for as little as $350,000.
What are you going to get for $350,000? Nothing. You're not going to get anything.
You know, for many, it's a dream come true and surprisingly a more affordable lifestyle than life on land, which is true. That is true.
That's true. You don't. Once you're on, you got your food, you've got your accommodations, you've got your Wi-Fi. You don't need a car. You don't need car insurance. What do you need? And they have a doctor on board.
A doctor, that's huge. You get that, you know.
You got a doctor. You probably have a less of a wait on a cruise ship than you would wherever you live. Have you ever tried to make an appointment at the doctor's office?
You're waiting forever.
You're waiting forever.
That's right. And you get 400 destinations. It actually reminds me, because I saw something on social media a couple days ago, Steve, and you might know this guy. Maybe you've even run into him because he was a United passenger. But back in the 90s, he bought United. I don't know if they were doing bad. Were offering unlimited flights, and I think you had to pay $350,000 or $400,000 up front, and you get unlimited flights for the rest of your life.
Never even heard of that.
And first class. And this
Nice.
this is the 90s, okay? This guy's been flying United since he got it. He says he's actually calculated that he's traveled. He's the most traveled person with United, of course, you know. And he calculated that he probably spent more than $2.5 million in flights, first class, travels all the time.
Well, just go to Japan or Australia first class. That's going to cost thousands of dollars.
And he spent less than $500,000 up front. Back in the 90s, he had the money. He just threw it down. He said, done. I bought it. And so that apparently, I mean, I was talking to my wife, Karen, about this. She goes, there wasn't a limit on, you know, like how many flights you can do per month. Bupkis, the guy, I think they calculated that in 1 year, he flew the equivalent of going from Earth to the moon like 3 times on a United flight in 1 year. So anyway,
if you got the money to do it and the time, that's amazing.
It's amazing. He's got the money and time.
Yeah. No wonder I have Oive socks on.
That's right. Well, Steve, you know, that guy and other people are living the dream with a luxury cruise and first class tickets and all that kind of stuff. But Jewish people are dealing with serious anti-Semitism right now. And we're not just talking about the fact that people don't like what's going on in Israel. It's bleeding over into anti-Semitism like what we heard coming out of Nazi Germany. It's actually not even against Israel. It's against Judaism as a whole. And so, you know, it's something I sent to you, but it sparked the conversation.
To me, Chris, I want you to read what she said. You texted me this, and I read what she's saying. And for the people out there who are saying it's about the occupation, we're not against the Jews.
That's right.
We're just against Zionism. That's all. If they don't occupy, they can live and be well. It's just not true. And this is just the tip of the iceberg. And Chris, it's been going on for years and years. Israel, the Jewish people, once God chose them, they become the enemy. And they've been the enemy whether they're in the land, out of the land. Read what she said.
Okay, so this is a woman that's on Substack, and she's
What is Substack?
Substack is like a new social media place where people can, you can subscribe, and there's a lot of journalists because it's more designed. It's not just little quick pictures and things that you put on Facebook. It's like actual journalism, and people use it as a platform to get out information and things like that. But it's long form text.
This kind of information I wish would not go out. But
well, so she's responding actually to a person who posted Candace Owens, who is basically saying support for Israel is over. That's what Candace Owens is saying. Support for Israel is over as a result of what's going on in Gaza. This woman furthers the conversation and says every Jew must consciously choose whether or not they will be defined by someone else. This woman's name is Trisha Dishes, okay?
What? Trisha Dishes?
Yeah, I don't know if that's just her name on the thing.
Oh, that can't be a real name.
But she's got her picture on there, okay?
There you go.
Every Jew is capable of rejecting the demonic reality behind the hashtag Talmud.
Ay, 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 ay.
Judaism is the worship of money, power, and blood of Christian children. That's a blood libel, Steve. This is mind-blowing.
This comes right out of whether you go back to the Red Cross days, the Crusades, or whether you go to the Tsars when they attacked my grandparents who got here to the United States because they hated Jews, or whether you go to the Holocaust. It's the same thing.
100%. She said that is the ugly reality, whether or not your rabbi or parents told you. It is what it is. The Talmud is unequivocally evil. But you don't have to accept and or support it just because someone else told you that it's your duty. In fact, you can expose it for what it is so that we can all free ourselves from its vicious consequences. Stand in your sovereignty. I don't even know what that means, but she is highlighting, Candace Owens is talking about the fact that support for Israel is over because
it's not a fact. That's her opinion.
Well, that's her opinion, but she's just saying, thank you for correcting that. She's saying, though, that support for Israel is over. But then this woman, Candace Owens also did this as well. This woman is going even deeper and saying Judaism is the root of all evil. That's what she's saying.
Yep.
Even to the point of the blood of Christian children, that's a blood libel. Going to money and power and influence, Judaism is evil. And she's grounding it in the Talmud, which again is absolute, the Talmud has things that are good and things, of course, that are bad, but it doesn't mean it's the root of all evil. She's blaming all of the woes of the world on Jewish people right now.
Chris, even the Talmud, as far you said, there's good and there's bad. We might not agree with stuff, but in the Talmud,
that's a better way to put it.
In the Talmud, they're writing commentary on the scripture because there'll be people who say in the Bible there's bad things. There's a lot of killing in the Bible.
Yeah.
There's a lot of that stuff. But when you read it in context, understanding where we are today, the Bible, the Talmud, it doesn't advocate going out and killing people now. It tells you about what happened in the past. But it's not saying, go kill this person. It's not dangerous. It's not a dangerous document. I don't know.
That's the this kind of stuff, though, is going viral. This is, of course, this woman is writing on Substack. I don't know who it is. And quite honestly, I don't follow her. I'm not going to follow her. It popped up on my feed because I'm interested in things about Israel.
I like that. It popped up on your feed.
Yeah.
That happens to me on YouTube. Where did this come from?
Because it knows what you like. And I like things about Israel. So I'm reading about, so this, of course, it doesn't know the difference between anti-Semitism. If it has Israel in it, it will.
Boom, you get it.
But I'm getting, it's more and more. There are people who claim to be Christians that are not only calling out Israel, but they're also calling out Judaism and Jewish people. And so, again, we're seeing it's not just the rise of anti-Semitism, it's the kind of language that was used by the Germans and, like you said, used by the Russians in the pogroms, used by Christians during the Crusader period. And, I can only pray, I will bless those who bless you and curse those who curse you. And that I don't want any cursing or anything to go wrong with people, but God's word is very, very true, and those people are speaking against the apple of God's eye. I don't know what else to tell you. So
I can tell you this, Chris, on the assurance of the word, that until the rapture of the church, until that time, there will always be Christians who support and love Israel, no matter how bad it gets. At least until the rapture of the church when he snatches them back. That doesn't mean all the church is for Israel today, but there's groups like us, Friends of Israel Gospel Ministry. There's other groups. There's individuals. I just had a phone call from dear friends of ours, Chris, who live in Indiana, who are faithfully have befriended a couple in their hometown one of the very few Orthodox Jewish people in that town. And they've been friends with them a long time. And this Christian lady has had cancer and survived it. And now her Jewish friend has cancer. And I can tell you that they love the Jewish people. They're motivated because they love God's chosen people. They love this family, whether they believe or whether they don't. And they demonstrate a love and support that nobody can snuff out.
It's amazing. It's amazing. And I think, again, it's a lot of uneducated people talking about Talmud.
I disagree.
You think this woman is educated?
I don't know if she is, but there are just go on a professor tour.
I mean uneducated. I don't know if has she ever even cracked open a Talmud.
Specifically her. I'm telling you, there are people who are educated people who are anti-Semitic.
100%. Yes. No, a lot of universities create the anti-Semitism.
Exactly
but
right.
I'm also saying they aren't necessarily scholars when it comes to Talmudic studies.
100%. I misunderstood your statement.
Okay, so that was something Steve and I really wanted to chat about to make you aware that this is brewing, and it's not just brewing in the secular world. It's actually taking hold in evangelical Christian circles. And so you need to be aware of that because we need to speak truth into this. God loves his people. God loves the chosen people. God loves Israel. It doesn't mean, as we're going to highlight later on, that we believe that Israel as a nation today does everything right.
Nope, they do not.
That's right. But at the same time, there's a difference between the human actions that take place on a day-to-day basis in the Knesset and God's overall faithful plan to his people and redemption for the entire world, that he would use a people and send his son through those people and make a promise to those people that ultimately is a benefit for the whole world.
Which is a great segue to Isaiah 53, Equip class, Will Varner. Not only do Jewish people come to know their Messiah in a personal way through Isaiah 53, I was one of them, but Gentiles do as well. And Will Varner will be teaching our Equip class September 11th and the 18th. Will Varner still, I think he's still associated with Masters, still teaches, a beloved professor, used to be with Friends of Israel years ago, but's been a professor there over 30 years. And Chris, if ever you want to see how how God has used the Jewish people, just read Isaiah 53. More people have come to know him through this chapter. I think it might rival John chapter 3 and verse 16.
It's true. It speaks of the coming Messiah, the suffering servant, and really the big question that I believe Dr. Varner is going to answer for us is to actually give us the tools to be able to use it to show that this is pointing to Jesus. Because there are a lot of arguments. Oh, yeah, Isaiah 53. I know you Christians think that's Jesus, but here's XYZ why it's not. Dr. Varner knows all the XYZs and gives us fantastic arguments to be able to show, no. This is unique to speaking about Israel and the Jewish people, and so, or specifically the Messiah. So it's going to be a great class, and you can register for that class for free right now by going to foiequip.org. Again, that's foiequip.org.
And Chris, October 7th will be 2 years. 2 years since October 7th, 2023. And we have for our Equip class actually titled 2 years later. 2 years later. That's, I think, the title. Where we have an eyewitness to the events of that day, that horrible day. Sivan Oved is going to be teaching our Equip class, a person who lived through it. What an amazing thing. That'll be worth, especially for the price, but that'll be worth it.
Free. FOIEquip.org. You'll see those classes right there on the website, and you can register. Again, support our sponsor, FOIEquip.org.
Chris, read our text today. We're sloshing through Psalm 119, moving really slow.
That's right. We're at Gimel, right? That's where we are.
No,
Gimel.
we're at yes, we are at Gimel.
Yeah, we've done Aleph, we've done Bet. Now we're doing Gimel in the Hebrew alphabet of Psalm 119, the acrostic that's going on here, and it says this: "Be good to your servant while I live. that I may obey your word. Open my eyes that I may see may see wonderful things in your law. I am a stranger on earth. Do not hide your commands from me. My soul is consumed with longing for your laws at all times. You rebuke the arrogant who are accused. To those who stray from your commands, remove from me their scorn and contempt, for I keep your statutes. Though rulers sit together and slander me, your servant will meditate on your decrees. Your statutes are my delight. They are my counselors. You know, Steve, again, there's always this tension as believers in Jesus in a new covenant, wondering what role does the law play in our lives, you know, because I think a lot of times we just think that law, it's done with in Jesus, when in reality, I've been thinking about this and meditating on it more and more, is that the Torah, the first 5 books of Moses, are the foundation. It's the bedrock of the entire scripture. Everything, it's the ground that the tree comes up and begins to block. And I'm not just talking about the New Testament. A lot of times we can sit there and go, oh yeah, we need the Old Testament for the New Testament. I'll argue you need the prophets and the writings that are grounded in the Torah. The Torah not only has growth that comes from it, you know, as the foundation, it's the things that are built on it are also found in the Old Testament. You need the law in order for the prophets to be speaking. You need the law in order for these
They
Psalms.
wouldn't have a message if you didn't have the Torah.
That's exactly. And then when you get to the New Testament, oftentimes we think, oh, God's just done with that Torah, the law, we're moving on. Well, then why did Paul use the Torah so much in order to tell the
Jesus
truth?
lived under the Torah.
That's right. He was born into the Torah.
He wrote it and lived it.
That's exact. And so again, you know, the more and more that I've been thinking about as we've been going through Psalm 119 is, if you recognize, instead of just casting it away, if you recognize that the Torah is the soil that all of the other components of the Bible come from, they grow out of course you can understand why the psalmist here is saying, I want to focus my life on your revelation to us, your people. The laws are more than just laws, Steve. It was God's revelation of his character and nature to his people. And I think a lot of times we think about laws and we go, oh, those are just laws. They're to-do lists. They're not to-do lists. They are God's character that he graciously bestowed to his people. And if you think about it like that, that everything kind of stems from this, that then all of a sudden we have a greater appreciation for what the law is. It doesn't mean we have to follow the Sabbath day or keep kosher laws, but you go back and you see the foundation, the bedrock of what all of Scripture, Old Testament and New Testament, grow out of, and it grows out of the Torah, the first 5 books of Moses.
One thing we can say, Chris, you've traveled to Israel. You've also been to New York City. You've seen a number of Hasidim, very religious Jewish people. They're devoted. They're devoted, many of them, more to the extra biblical writings in Judaism than they are to the Bible itself. But we can't argue with their zeal, their commitment to that bedrock. They'll talk Torah to you all day long. They'll talk. In fact, they talk to each other about Torah. They pray all the time. It was the Apostle Paul who, in chapter 9 of Romans, or chapter 10, talks about zeal. They have a zeal for God, which centers around the word and what the rabbis say. They have a zeal for God, but without knowledge. That one is if you are able to observe what goes on in Israel and other places where they're religious Jews, you understand that because you try to talk to them about a biblical passage, and they'll tell you, oh, I have to talk to my rabbi. That's good, but I have to talk to my rabbi. They are so devoted, but they don't. Judaism doesn't leave a lot for the individual to interact with the text. Mm-hmm. Just like Catholicism, Protestantism, Mohammedanism, they rely a lot on whoever their expert is. Chris?
Even the Druze. I always love whenever we go through a Druze village and you're listening to the tour guide, he says, now really, the Druze text, nobody can read it. No one is allowed to read it. only the religious leaders. So it's commanded
And they'll
that
tell
way.
you, I don't know.
I don't know.
I don't know.
It's a mystery that I have to go to the Jewish
They
leader
believe
about.
by faith. And so, but we're encouraged. The Bible-believing Christian is encouraged to read the text and allow the Holy Spirit to guide and direct. And within this text, as we're in Gimel, look at what it says. Open my eyes that I may see. He doesn't say, send me to a rabbi to help me. He doesn't send me to a priest, send me to an imam. He doesn't say that. He is interacting with and he had a lot less text than you and I have. But he says, open my eyes that I may see wondrous things. So it's not just reading of the law. You talked about meditating. That's what the psalmist talks about. And not just this psalm, it's other psalms that talk about the same thing, where we read the word, we think about the word, we meditate on the word. And if we were to confess, Chris, you and I both, I'll raise my hand, I think we spend more time meditating on the news than we do on the word.
I told you that already.
We do that. But God is saying through the Spirit of God, spend time with me and I'll show you wondrous things. He's laying it down, Chris. The challenge is laid down. Let me show you that I could do that.
You know, last night I was telling you earlier that I taught about Abigail to a women's
What
group.
did you tell him about Abigail?
Well, Abigail is actually, many scholars believe that she is the virtuous woman of wisdom from Proverbs 31. And she really, there wouldn't be a King David if it wasn't for Abigail.
I gotta tell you, boy, you wonder did her father make her marry the fool?
I don't know. That's a great question.
Was that arranged marriage?
It was maybe it was, but she could care less what that guy had to do. She was concerned about David. And, and of course, I think she was thinking about I think she had wisdom about her whole village, that David was about to go in and
He was going to wipe out all those guys.
He's going to take them all out. You can read about it in 1 Samuel 25. But something that struck me was that I think Abigail knew what David's divine calling was to be king, and that he was about to enter into this village and
make a big mistake.
That would affect his kingship. That he might not even be king at that point, for what he would have done. Abigail saved him big time. But she saw the big picture. And I think sometimes we forget when we're watching the news, we're in the nitty gritty and we forget the big picture. And that's what we're talking about here in Gimel, in this section in Psalm 119, is God's pulling us back and saying, the big picture is not what happens on a day-to-day basis with the news. The big picture is what I'm doing. The news is a part of the day-to-day events. But if that's where your consumption, if that's where your meditation is, then you're only going to be caught up in that world. But if your meditation is on the big picture of what I'm doing, the big picture of how I'm working in this world, the big picture of meditating on my word, it will change the way that you see the news on a day-to-day basis. And actually, instead of giving you anxiety, would give you hope in the midst of all the chaos of the world.
Yep. Notice what verse 19 says, Chris. I'm a stranger in the earth. I'm a stranger on the earth. That means I'm outside of what's happening. We're to be in the world, but not of the world. That's an Older Testament teaching that's developed later in the New Testament, but it's right there. You and I have a lot of confessing to do, Chris, because when we're watching the news and thinking about all that's happening, we're just going more, as you said, into the nitty gritty and not thinking, God, what are you doing in the midst of all this? Mm-hmm. I think it's amazing what Psalm 119 is saying here in Gimel.
And it says, my soul is consumed with longing for your laws at all times. And again, I don't think they thought about laws the same way that we think about laws. I think when we think about grace and law, it's kind of pitted against this free. Sometimes grace can almost feel like it's this freedom to be free to do whatever you want, where laws were constricting us and binding us and pulling us down. If you hear the psalmist, he's not saying that. He's not saying these laws are constricting. Break me from these laws. No, he's actually saying the opposite. He's saying the opposite. He's saying, my soul is consumed with longing for your laws all the time. Why? Because your laws are what guide me to understand who you are. They are a representative. They represent who God is. And so again, grace oftentimes is confused with being the opposite of law, when in reality, I think Jesus in the Gospels in John, John says that when Jesus comes, he is grace upon grace, which means John is thinking about the fact that Moses brought the law, Jesus brings grace, and instead of looking, that's when he says Jesus is grace upon grace. That means a lot of scholars say, see, the law in the Jewish mind is grace because God gave it, but Jesus is grace abounding, even more grace than what we already received. And who is Jesus? Jesus is the walking embodiment of the law. If you want to see what the law is supposed to look like, Jesus isn't the opposite of the law. He's the walking embodiment of the law to the people of Israel, to see what God intended the law to be all along, to love others, to think of others ahead of yourself. All of those all of those ideas, all of those truths that we get from Jesus are grounded in the law.
And notice what he says in verse 22. It says, "Remove from me reproach and contempt, for I have kept your testimonies." Here, this happens today, Chris. Isolation for a person who's committed to God's word because people think you're weird. That happens in college campuses for Christian kids, happens in the workplace. It can happen in a family. Chris, when I came to know Christ, it affected my family. There were lines drawn. There was a sense of being outcast. And I'm not complaining. I'm just saying you feel that way. So what does the psalmist say in verse 22? "Remove from me reproach and contempt, for I have kept your testimonies." The idea is, Lord, help me as I've tried to be faithful to you. Help me work through this kind of situation. And he does. I remember when this actually happened, when my family rejected me for a period of time and I was away, God found a new family for me right in the body of Christ that acted even better than my own family. Mm-hmm. That's what the word can do.
Do you think people, and I know sometimes even me, you can feel as though, I don't know if it's a great time to talk about Jesus right now because of the environment I'm in, because of the scorn and contempt that might be felt. But here the psalmist is reminding us that the value, he's saying, remove this stuff from me because I've kept your commands, I've kept your statutes. But I also believe that you can still feel a sense of like Elijah. Like one minute you're bold, you're on fire, but then the next minute you're like, I'm kind of nervous right now. I don't like the way things are going. I'm just going to stay silent.
Yeah, you have to be discerning. But God gives this psalmist, I think, wants a sense of peace while that stuff is going on. Having a sense of peace in the middle of a storm because of your testimony. There have been many martyrs for the faith. And if you ever read an old book, but powerful, Fox's Book of Martyrs, during the first century, Nero lit up Christians so he could eat at his festivals. I mean, they stuck them on a stake, poured oil on them, and lit them up. Mm-hmm. And there's testimony of them singing
while they were being burned.
How is look, I don't know how that's possible other than some sort of intervention by God himself. But remember in the book of Acts, Paul and Silas in prison, and they're singing.
They're singing,
and then the cell opens, and they said, "Don't worry." They get out. The Roman soldier is like beside himself. They said, "Zygazun, don't worry."
Right? He's going to lose his life.
They had peace in the midst of turmoil, difficulty, all those kinds of things. I think as you meditate on these verses, which is reproach and contempt, you can substitute those words for difficulty, trials, testings. God provides a rest in those situations.
And that's why he says, your statutes are my delight. They are my counselors. That is a great word. Again, a reminder, to be thinking about the fact that the Torah, the law, the first 5 books of Moses are the bedrock to the scriptures, and that it's not just the New Testament that streams from these things, but it's also the Old Testament and the books of the Old Testament that stream from these truths of God revealing himself to Moses on Mount Sinai, God revealing himself to Moses in the book of Deuteronomy. You know, Steve, when I was reading about studying a long time ago for a class I was teaching at Word of Life on Leviticus, something that stuck out to me was a commentator was saying the book of Leviticus wasn't just a book for the priests. The book of Leviticus was a book for the common Israelite. If there's a book that you're going to keep in your back pocket, it's going to be the book of Leviticus, because this is teaching the Israelite two things. How do I have a relationship with God in this tabernacle structure? But then also, how do I make sure those priests aren't cheating me? Because God didn't just give the revelation to the priests, like you were saying earlier, and saying, here you go. Now you tell the people what to do. Look, priests weren't perfect. They could have abused the system. They did abuse the system. Read Malachi. They abused the system. But he's actually saying, you people need to know this book, because then you'll know if a priest is trying to cheat you out of more food that you're bringing, or abusing the situation, because religious people in the quote unquote religious industry cheat people all the time. Turn on some TV shows and you'll see them saying, you give us $1,000 right now, God will bless you. Well, and people respond to that because they're expecting something that the religious leader taught them. God is saying, no, you need to read this too. This isn't just a book for the priest. This is a book for you to know, so that you can not only know how to have a relationship with me, but how to do it right, and to make sure you can also hold accountable those who are leading you as well, because the leaders aren't the word is the word. The truth of the Torah is the word, not the priest. And so the priest should abide by the Torah. You should abide by the Torah, because that's who I am. I'm living my words out through these things, that you might have a relationship with me.
Excellent way to segue. Next week we'll do Dalit.
That's right. Well, we did Aleph, Bet, Gimel, Dalit. That's right.
That's right. But Chris, we have some news. I mean, we have some news, and it's not good news for Christians. And a lot of people don't know what's really happening around the world as it relates to Christians.
That's right. And this Fox News report that came out, ISIS soldiers beheaded Christians in Mozambique, burning churches and homes. It's a silent genocide. International observers are reporting that ISIS-aligned soldiers are beheading Christians and burning churches and homes in Central and Southern Africa, with some of the most brutal attacks happening in the nation of Mozambique. Just a quick question, Steve. I wonder where those protesters are on college campuses right now, or that are on the news talking endlessly about the war in Gaza, but ignore the fact that ISIS soldiers are beheading, specifically targeting Christians. It's a double whammy, because number one, it shows that Israel gets the ultimate attention of the world and criticism of the world, and on the other end, Christians are ignored when they're being massacred. A genocide is actually happening in Africa. So again, it's an interesting read, because it's horrible what's happening to them, and also how the media and the attention of everybody is on Israel, which quite honestly is one of the most moral armies in the world and has a right to defend itself, but then we ignore these truths.
Exactly. And Christianity, from the time that it began, has been under persecution in various places. That too is never going to cease until God calls the church to be with himself.
The Middle East Media Research Institute, MEMRI, which I actually think, if you are just hearing about this for the first time, I encourage you to go to MEMRI's website. That's MEMRI, Middle East Media Research Institute. They do a lot of fantastic work, and they're the ones calling what's going on to these Christians in Mozambique a silent genocide.
Yeah, it's we'll put it in the show notes, and you'll have to read it. And Chris, I just want to, in the midst of Israel and what's gone on since October 7th, and we support Israel, Friends of Israel does. We stand with them during this time and try to be a voice for what is happening. But the fact of the matter is, stuff happens even in the midst of a good work. Even, look, in the United States, I'm an American. I love America, but there have been Americans, politicians, and others who've done things that are stupid. Mm-hmm. And this, to me, is stupid. For whether it's not right, number one, it's not right. It sends the wrong message, but it's also stupid from a political point of view. I got this from the Jerusalem Post, and the headline reads this: Smotrich post picture with death to Arabs graffiti, blames media for not paying attention. What's he thinking, Chris?
Yeah, and just FYI, why Steve brings this up is if you're not familiar with the name Smotrich, which is Bezalel Smotrich, he is in the Knesset.
He's a Knesset member, and
even
he's
worse
in the
than that,
government.
yeah, he's actually an Israeli finance minister as well. And he's actually has
and
a picture.
He's smiling. Look at him. This is not good, Chris.
And he's also posting a picture with the Attorney General in Israel as well.
And it looks like a rabbi there. I mean, I'm guessing it might be just a religious person, but the guy on the right, he looks like a rabbi.
That's right. And he says, this is from the Jerusalem Post, Israeli-Palestinian non-government organization raised the issue of Smotrich's post with Attorney General, arguing that no politician could post something that said death to the Jews without reprimands. And here is Smotrich standing with a horrible sign behind him. It's all in Hebrew. It's graffitied on the wall, and it says Israel Finance Minister Bezalel Smotrich sparked controversy after uploading. So he uploaded it, a post to his Twitter account, his X account, where he is seen posting next to the graffiti that says "Death to Arabs." He later published a version of the photo to the social media with the graffiti cropped out, but did not apologize for the situation.
What's he thinking? Look, Chris. We, again, are very pro-Israel. But when somebody does something, Judaism doesn't talk about that. Judaism doesn't want that to happen. You don't say death to a general specific group of people. That's what Jewish people have experienced. But what happens, he gets caught in the moment. It would be good for him to look at Gimel.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's right.
Meditate on Gimel here for a little bit.
But even more importantly, it's important for people to know, too, that Israel is a democracy. And so this is the moment where things aren't looking good for the Netanyahu government right now. He's got his trial going on. There are parties that make up his coalition that are falling apart. What Smotrich does, it's very important to note, he doesn't represent what Israelis believe. And there might be a lot of angry Israelis right now.
The majority of Israel.
That's right. That's exactly right.
He's a small portion of the country.
The problem is that in Israeli politics, small groups of people are a part of a bigger coalition. And so
very key point.
That's right. And so right now there's a lot of ultra-Orthodox, ultra-religious individuals that are a part of the Netanyahu government. I don't think Netanyahu would never stand, or most of the politicians of Israel, the leaders, would never stand behind or in front of a sign like that. But Smotrich, with his small coalition, his small party, are a part of a bigger coalition. So he has the backing of certain people, but it definitely doesn't make up the majority the way Israelis think.
Yeah, his group, he oversees a party that, not the same, but the results are the same, that, how do you pronounce the New York guy who's running for?
Mamdani.
Mamdani is he's not the majority of Americans. Most Americans reject, they don't like anything about him, but there's a small portion that do, and it's a view of the world that is contrary to the majority. The same thing with Smotrich. He's very aggressive as far as a right wing, way to the right, and but it's not good. It makes the country look bad.
It makes the country look horrible, and it's not just Arabs as well that they are not fans of Christians. Ambassador Huckabee, who we had on a couple weeks ago, he had to speak bluntly to
this same kind of group.
Yes, to say, hey, you are denying Christians visas, and this is wrong. And I'm going to let the Americans know what's going on, and we'll apply a visa to you when you come to the United States. Let's see how you like it. And it fixed the problem. So I do think they respond. I think they feel like they have a lot of freedom right now to do what they want in the government. And so we'll see what happens. But here's another big one coming out of the Knesset. Steve, actually, let me rewind and say this and set this up a little bit more. 20 years ago this month is when Ariel Sharon pulled the Israelis out of Gaza.
And it
20
was
years
a
ago.
hard pull, Chris.
8,000, I think, 5,000 to 8,000 Israelis.
Yep.
Were
Who had
told,
lived there 30 years.
Yeah, 30 plus years. They have built a life in Gaza. They have built farms, a big industry in Gaza. There were certain towns that were Jewish towns, and there were certain towns that were Palestinian towns.
And they own their homes. Imagine how long have you been living in New Jersey? How long have you been in your home?
10 years.
10 years. Triple that. And there were people raised their families, even had grandkids. And the Israeli government under Sharon says you got to get out.
Yeah.
And literally, those who didn't want to said Sharon sent IDF soldiers and they dragged them out.
That's right. And so it became Juden free. There were no Jewish people in Gaza. Okay. So they gave it over to the Palestinians in 2005, 20 years ago this month, to basically create a state, if you will. I mean, it wasn't something that was completely recognized, but they had their own territory.
They had their own election.
And they elected not only Gaza, but the West Bank as well. They elected Hamas. And Hamas, over a series of civil wars in between the Palestinians, would end up kicking out all of the other parties of the Palestinians and would take complete control, become the proxy of Iran, and became a terrorist launch pad into Israel. So now we're 20 years removed from that moment when and a lot of people are still questioning whether or not Ariel Sharon made the right decision or not. You know, I would venture to say probably not a great idea. But here we are today, 20 years later. Here the Israelis are, and Netanyahu believes, according to the New York Post and others as well, occupying Gaza is the only way to save the hostages, but it will also start the bloodiest phase of the war yet, experts warn. So we still have a hostage situation.
There's 20 that are supposed to be alive, one of which we saw digging. Chris, the picture. I don't know. I never asked you if you saw that picture.
I saw the video.
Yeah. Digging it comes right out of Nazi Germany. I mean, that's exactly. It's hard to believe, and the torture to the families, the pressure that's put on. So there's 30 that are estimated to be dead, 20 that are alive, but they're all in the hands of Hamas. How do you get to them? What do you do at this stage with the pressure building of food being a difficult commodity to get in because Hamas steals it? When I was driving home from Chicago, I was listening to Fox News, and they had an embedded reporter.
I saw that.
Yeah, who got to be part of the distribution that's going on with former what are the soldiers?
U.S.
Yeah, but
U.S. military.
Retired special ops guys who put together Trump gave them through that bill $30 million to establish a nonprofit, and they go in there armed, and fix a whole area and allow thousands of people to come in. Chris, so the food is an issue, but how are they gonna get rid of Hamas, which they estimate it being at least 15 more thousand. 15 more thousand. How are they gonna get rid of them, and how are they going to recover the hostages?
Yeah, it says Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu is preparing to call for the full military occupation of the Gaza Strip to fight Hamas and to free the hostages, according to multiple reports. But it could kick off the bloodiest phase of the war yet for the Jewish state. You know, this is just something that there's tension. The tension, of course, is internal in Israel. I don't think most Israelis want to occupy the Gaza Strip. The tension is getting back the hostages that are remaining, and even those whose bodies are in the Gaza Strip. Those families want the bodies of the hostages back who have been murdered, killed, and then there's also the tension of the public relations, the PR, in Israel and the world. You know, it is not good right now. I mean, I continue to read more and more, even
people who are for what Israel is doing,
or just neutral,
are now turning against Israel.
They're turning against Israel, even within the church and evangelicalism that would be big supporters of Israel during this time. They're turning against Israel. So there's and again, you can't. A government like Netanyahu, like the leader, he can't go based on on the sways of whether or not people like them or not. That's not the way to lead. You can't lead based on whether or not some Christian in New Jersey thinks what you're doing is a right or wrong thing. But it does impact the way, because Israelis love Americans. Israelis love the West. They don't want that kind of criticism constantly as well. So it is going to take a real leader to make a decisive decision on what will put an end to Hamas, what will free the hostages, and what will end this constant threat for Israel on the border. And it's, but again, balancing the fact that the UN is ready to to toss any human rights violation they possibly can at Israel in a heartbeat like that. So,
and the movement now of France, Canada, and Great Britain using that as overlording it on Israel, saying we're going to make us a Palestinian state.
Well, they're threatening Australia, France, the UK, Canada are threatening Netanyahu with like it's a stick and carrot kind of situation, that they'll recognize a Palestinian state if he doesn't embrace a ceasefire. The reality, though, is Netanyahu put forward a ceasefire, or was going to agree to one, and Hamas turned it down, and yet they still point the finger at Israel. And the other question is, Steve, what is a Palestinian state? What does that even mean?
No one can answer that.
Where do you go?
Put it? Who runs it?
That's right. What's going to happen when they go, they're recognizing us. We want East Jerusalem. We're right back to where we started. We want Gaza. We want this. Now all of a sudden, instead of building up a reality, which is what I think was happening, there was a reality that was being checked when the U.S. moved its embassy to Jerusalem, when there were recognized understandings of what is reality. The Palestinians have lived in a pie-in-the-sky world where what they really want is all the land. So what does a Palestinian state mean today? What is the best future? Because these guys are just touting the policies of 20 years ago that have never worked for Israel and the Palestinians to bring peace. And so it's only perpetuating more and more violence, I believe. And they don't even realize they're just using it as leverage for Netanyahu to stop in Gaza, period. So it will be interesting to see how that all plays out.
Very interesting. Very interesting.
All right, Steve, here we go. You are on it, my friend. Yiddish word of the day. Yiddish word of the day.
Well, Chris, we're talking about delight. Delighting ourselves in the word of the Lord. And Chris, when I was at camp last week, it was in the 90s. It was so hot. And then midweek it broke. And I said, what a Mechiah! What a Mechiah, a blessing, a delight, literally a delight. And so it was delightful to finally have some cool air as we go through Psalm 119. It should be, the word of God should be a Mechiah for us, just like cool air after a hot summer.
Preach it, brother. Mechiah.
Mechiah.
You are a Mechiah, my friend.
There you go.
You are a Mechiah. Hey, everybody, thanks so much for being a part of the Friends of Israel's Jew and Gentile podcast. Hey, you know what? You want stickers. I know you want stickers. Text us at 424-444-1948. We're going to send you our new sticker package, all right? It'll come with fantastic stuff for you and your stickers so that you can be a blessing to Israel and the Jewish people biblically. You can teach biblical truth through the stickers. Again, 424-444-1948. Also, don't forget to go to FOI Equip.org. There you can sign up for Will Varner's class on Isaiah 53. I want to see you there. I'll be there. I want to see you there. And also the October 7th, that's coming up 2 years from the event on October 7th, 2023 with Sivan Oved. I want to see you there as well. FOIEquip.org. Hey, thanks so much for being with us, and we'll see you soon.
Be a Mechiah to somebody.